Anchors up, sails at full. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing all right, Jared. How are you doing today, Mr. Birthday Boy?
It's not my birthday anymore. I mean, it is for you and I right now. But for anyone who isn't currently in our Discord live chat, hi Sloopcats, everyone else is hearing this after my birthday. So everyone else, you're late. You're too late. You're too late, as a matter of fact. I don't hear none of this belated bullshit.
So before we hit record here, Jared and I were just talking like, man, not much is coming out of the out of spring camp here. There isn't much news here. And then all of a sudden we saw Alex Gleitman all of a sudden just a little bit before we hit record just has an eye emoji. We're like, okay.
I was wondering,
something may be coming tonight here. And then just a few minutes before we hit the record, boom. We got a commit here. Tony Alford but gets his recruit in James Peoples. James Peoples commits to Ohio State here. Definitely what was it here? He's a top 5 running back for the 2024 class here. Definitely a guy Ohio State really, really wanted and got him.
Alfred on the every other year schedule currently. Here's the thing about Alfred. He doesn't always, although he definitely sometimes does, look no further than Trey Henderson. Alfred doesn't always get the 5-star guys, but how often does he straight up miss on a running back? I mean, there have been guys who've just not been able to because of injuries, right? But that just happens. That's not that just happens. But like, even when Alfred, his guys don't miss. I think he's a great talent evaluator. His guys don't miss because like even Steel Chambers is like, well, I'm just a linebacker now. Alfred doesn't miss is the thing. Like, I have all the faith in the world in, his evaluations at this point.
I'm trying to think like, what was the last?
Well, we'll just end up
running back that he missed.
We'll just end up shitting on some poor kid who didn't quite put it together. Yeah. There have been a couple guys. There have been a couple guys not make it in recent years mostly due to injury. And that, like I said, that's just a thing that happens.
Let's just say it was last year where they didn't get a running back in the recruiting class. We'll just say that one.
No, I mean the guys he gets. Like you don't have flops. You don't have guys who just don't pan out in the running back room at Ohio State under Tony Alford.
Yeah.
Again, injuries aside.
Yeah. All right. Well, we won't go deep into that. We will go more deep into the into a big weekend that was with a lot of recruits that came in here, Jared.
A lot of recruits that came in. There was also a Saturday scrimmage that we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk, I think, mostly recruiting. We're going to talk a little bit at Saturday scrimmage towards the end. So we're calling this a building blocks episode. But we're going to talk a little bit of spring camp too.
Yeah. It was funny. Like one of the first names here was talking about James Peoples and about how say in really good position to get him. Yeah. And well, we kind of just scratched that off.
But here's the thing. There's been a lot of rumblings. Berm said it on Twitter. Hayes Fawcett, who I believe works for On3 now, said that, Ohio State's about to go on a run. James Peoples, after committing, said, Ohio State's about to go on a big recruiting run. We keep hearing like there's a big recruiting run happening. And it's kind of already started, picked up the Armstrong twins just last week. So you pick up the Armstrong twins, you pick up James Peoples, but who else could be a part of this big run? Everyone's talking about a big run, big recruiting phase coming up for Ohio State. Kyle, let's explore who those other players might be.
Sure. I think another one, if you're following recruiting closely, Aaron Noland got his offer from Ohio State. And he's going to be quickly committing here next weekend, Jared.
Yeah, and I don't think Ohio State makes the offer because he just got the offer. He's committing next week, April 8th. I don't think Ohio State makes... He just visited too. I don't know if Kyle said that, but he just visited this past weekend.
Yeah,
I don't think Ohio State makes the offer unless they feel like things are going to go. Ohio State does not like making offers that they know they will lose on. Ohio State is very exclusive with their offers, and they don't like to be beat when they offer. I don't think Ohio State makes this offer unless they know it's going to go their way.
Yeah, and Aaron Nolan thinks the same thing too. Yeah, he was really excited to get the offer there, and he said here, everything you can ask for is at Ohio State, especially from a quarterback standpoint.
Yeah. Why does Ohio State bring in so many great wide receivers? Because they always bring in great quarterbacks. Why do they always bring in great quarterbacks? Because they bring in so many great wide receivers. It's a self-feeding system, right?
It is, yes.
Aaron Noland, one of the top quarterbacks in the country, currently ranked 7th according to the 24/7 Sports Proper, 8th according to the Composite. Just outside of that 5-star, especially in the 24/7 Sports Proper rankings, where he is ranked 55th. I think you have to be 32nd or higher to get the 5th star, if I'm remembering how 24/7 does things. So he's a high 4-star guy. Without looking it up, I think this is about where CJ Stroud was sitting in the quarterback rankings. I think he was maybe in like the 40 to 60 range. So don't sweat that lack of a 5th star too badly.
Yep.
Yeah. Huge player coming out of Georgia. You miss on Raiola. That ends up being what it is, but man, Aaron Noland's not much of a step back at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, we talk about the wide receivers feeding the quarterback recruiting and the quarterback recruiting feeding the wide receiver recruiting. Guess who else was in town this weekend, Kyle? As if it's not right there in the show notes.
Another visit from Mylan Graham here. Seems like he can't stop coming back to Columbus here, which definitely bodes very well for Ohio State to get him here.
Yeah, Miles Graham makes another visit to Ohio State. Ohio State appears to be the team to beat here. And he watched Carnell ball out. Yeah, that helps. You go there and you see a freshman getting reps. Granted, it's just like it's a spring scrimmage. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but guess what? It helps.
But still.
Yeah, he's out of Indiana, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I will make zero apologies for it. If you're a top player out of the state of Indiana, I consider that in-state.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's an in-state player in my opinion. So you have to go get Miles Graham, one of the top quarterback, one of the top wide receivers in the country. He is a 5-star guy, 26th overall in the entire country. You have to go get Miles Graham. I had Miles Graham in the mock class a couple weeks ago. I had Aaron Noland in the mock class a couple weeks ago. Did I have James Peoples in the mock? Don't ask that question. Don't ask that question. Maybe just don't ask that. Listen. I think like a lot of people in that mock class was giving Ohio State Jordan Marshall instead of James Peoples. Jordan Marshall going to Michigan, James Peoples will come to Ohio State, and that's honestly fine. I'm cool with that. But wide receiver wise, I did and still do have Miles Graham coming to Ohio State, along with Jeremiah Smith, who's already on the roster. And then I think Josiah Trader, whether Josiah Trader ends up being a wide receiver or not, I think is maybe in question. He could be a defensive back, but we'll call him a wide receiver for now. And I think the Josiah Trader commitment isn't that far away. So so just throwing another name out there, throwing Miles Graham's name out there, throwing Josiah Trader's name out there, we're talking about like, a recruiting run. Who else could be in that recruiting run? There's 2 more names for you. Kyle puts a screenshot in here of the 5th, 6th, and 7th running backs in the country. Is Nolan more highly ranked than the recent Teton quarterback commit? I do not believe so. No. No, he's amazing.
Well, that's pull that up real quick.
Yeah, pull it up real quick, Kyle. But no, I'm not gonna bullshit you and try and be like that commitment for Michigan is no big deal or something. It is. It's absolutely a big deal. That's an incredible quarterback that they just picked up. It's someone that Ohio State really, really wanted. Like straight up, someone Ohio State really, really wanted. Had things played out different with Raiola because Ohio State had a really good relationship there. And then Raiola committed. So Ohio State switches their focus away from Jaden Davis because Raiola committed. And then months go by and you just don't have that sort of same relationship built up. And it hurts. It sucks, but it is what it is. But no, he's an incredible quarterback. He's an absolutely incredible quarterback. Ohio State would have loved to have had Jaden Davis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give me a late riser any day, I think, at quarterback. Maybe. I don't know. I don't have numbers on that. I don't have numbers on that one way or the other.
Well, the last time Ohio State got a quarterback from the state of Georgia, it turned out pretty well.
No, they got him in the transfer portal though.
Yes, but still. All right. Speaking of players making multiple trips to Columbus here, 5-star corner Charles Lester.
Yeah. This is a Florida cornerback. So even if he committed tomorrow, he's not.
Yeah.
So let's just say that right off the top. I don't think Ohio State, most of the names I'm giving you right now, I think are names that I think are names I feel very strongly about for Ohio State. I feel very strongly about Miles Graham, Aaron Nolan, feel very strongly about those guys. Lester, I don't feel strong that he ends up at Ohio State by any means. He's an amazing cornerback. He's a Florida cornerback. I don't even want him to commit yet. You don't want those Florida cornerbacks committing too early most of the time. So I don't think we have an imminent situation here where he's going to commit to Ohio State anytime soon. I also just don't even feel amazed. Ohio State's in the run. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Ohio State's absolutely in this running. He just made a second trip to Columbus. He's scheduled his third trip in June. Ohio State's in the running here. Keep getting the kid on campus and you just increase your odds on him coming to Ohio State. This would certainly help break Ohio State out of a little bit of a recruiting rut, bringing in like a 5-star cornerback like they we used to recruit cornerbacks at Ohio State the way that we're currently recruiting wide receivers at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not been the case as of late. And, Charles Lester might be the guy to help bring that back.
Yeah. I tell you, with Charles Lester here, yeah, I think Ohio State is in an uphill battle here with Florida State right now. I mean, that's where it looks like, where the predictions are going for Charles Lester right now. But I mean, the second visit and then the third visit here coming up is going to be, I think, going to be really beneficial for Ohio State. So we'll see if they can turn him around.
Yeah, and I understand why the crystal balls are going in that direction, but early in the cycle yet, still very early in the cycle. Want to be the second or third commitment from a Florida cornerback. Yeah. Let him get a commitment or two elsewhere. You're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's one already. The top corner has gone to Georgia, so there's one.
He's saying he wants
then,
Lester
right?
to commit to one or two places first.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Some more names here, Jared.
Let's stay on the defensive side, Kyle. Who you got?
Let's go to a state Ohio State's had success in. Curious to see if they're going to continue to have success with University of Texas going to the SEC and all that. But Peyton Pierce, the linebacker out of Lucas, Texas.
Yeah, Lovejoy High School.
You may look at, what's that?
Lovejoy High School.
Yes, yeah. Top 200 kid here, and yeah, I think that things are doing well for Ohio State. Yes, doing well for Ohio State here. Look like Kurlick and Tom Loy, have logged crystal balls for Peyton Pierce to go to Ohio State.
Yeah. Once again, this is a name who I did include in the mock draft a couple weeks back. And for the record, I had Charles Lester as a name mentioned. I don't remember if I actually put him in the final class or not. It probably not. I would guess. I don't think I did. I mean, we're still, I think, less than 50% on Lester, but Peyton Pierce is a guy who I feel really good about at this point. I'm not saying it's imminent, and I'm not saying, absolutely write it down in permanent marker or anything like that. But I think Ohio State's in really, really good position here.
Staying on the defensive here, Jared, Dylan Stewart.
Yeah, this is a huge name. He seemed like he would follow Laurinaitis into an actual battle on Berm's pod. Good to know. Having Laurinaitis back in the Scarlet and Gray is nice for multiple reasons. I'm sure, even though he's not technically allowed to recruit, we all know what happens, especially when the kid's on campus. So, having Laurinaitis on staff, I think is just so he's not at Notre Dame. I think more than anything else, they don't even seem to be hiding that he's recruiting. Yeah, I know. It's you're an official recruit, or you're just a guy who is sometimes in contact. Like it's one of those things where it's technically against the rules, but also how do you regulate it? And literally everyone's doing it, so who cares? It's one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Peyton Pierce is obviously a huge pickup for Ohio State if they're able to get. And Kyle has brought up Dylan Stewart. Kyle talked about, a place where you have success. Ohio State has had a lot of success pulling kids out of the, DC Metro, including
The Maryland area.
Across the border into Maryland. A lot of success there for Ohio State. Dylan Stewart would be enormous. This is a solid 5-star kid. According to the composite ranking, he is a top 10 player. Ohio State has Ohio State in the Meyer Day era. The biggest change I think you've seen in the Meyer Day era would be the defensive ends and the amount of talent they're getting at defensive end. Specifically Day era, if we say specifically Day era, it's been all quarterbacks in my opinion. But in the Meyer Day era, it's just been guess who's here? Gangland's here. But during the Meyer Day era, I think one of the biggest leap forwards Ohio State has made is the talent that they've gotten at defensive end. I think that there have been slight ups and slight downs in there, but I think it's been over the past 10 years, one of the most consistently recruited groups at Ohio State. Dylan Stewart could very easily be next in line there. So Chad Simmons, who is the Steve Wiltfong of the On3 recruiting network. As Kyle just puts the screenshot in the show notes, has predicted Dylan Stewart to Ohio State. Obviously huge if it comes to I can't talk. If it comes true. It's again, incredibly talented kid. He's 6'5", 235, top 10 player. He is again, just could be the next defensive end for Ohio State. He is a kid who I included in my mock a couple of weeks ago. And since then we've only been trending positively.
Yeah, I agree, Jarrett. It's the defensive end has been one of the most consistent in getting top talent here. And yeah, can they pull it off one more time in this recruiting class?
Yeah. I mean, we all sort of sit back and we try not to say it too loudly, but we all wonder how many years the old man's got left. When's, can he still recruit? And then he brings in JT and, it's just, and then
Sawyer
goes in and he brings in Sawyer, he brings in Abor, he brings in all of these amazingly talented defensive ends, and then add Dylan Stewart on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kyle. So those are some of the big names. We talked about big names who could be. There's this common theme out there from people in the program, around the program, completely outside the program, that there's big things. There's a big recruiting run coming. We've already got 3 names in the past 2 weeks. Well, 2 names since the Armstrongs have the same last name, I guess. But yeah, we've had 3 players in 2 weeks, and people are like, nah, this hasn't even started yet. So those are some of the names who I think could be added on top of this run. I think there's another important question we need to ask though, Kyle. Ohio State does pick up a running back, obviously, in James Peoples. Will they, could they, should they add a second running back in this recruiting class?
They don't do it too often, but
they also didn't have. I think they wanted to add. They didn't add a running back at all. A couple years ago, if I remember correctly.
They didn't last year, but 2 years ago they did with Henderson and Pryor.
They got Hayden last year. right?
Yeah.
But I think they
Yeah,
wanted,
I guess I meant in the 23
to.
in the 23 class they didn't.
Right.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
Right. Okay. So last year they didn't get any running backs, which was not the plan. So I do think it makes sense to pick up 2 running backs this cycle. A name who I included in my mock draft a couple weeks ago, who is still out there, who I think there's still a high possibility that Ohio State could be adding, Sam Williams-Dixon from Pick North here in the Columbus metro area. Do you take 2 now or take Peoples and then go all in on a big time 25 back? A big time 25 back? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I think Peoples in is in 2025. Gotcha. No, I think that they try to. I think in my opinion, I think they'll try to obviously keep James Peoples, and then probably add again. I think Sam Williams-Dixon out of Pick North is a guy who I would watch most closely. If you're a big 5-star running back, and I'm not saying this is the correct attitude. I'm throwing no disrespect whatsoever at Sam Williams-Dixon or James Peoples. But typically a 5-star running back, your next Trey Henderson isn't necessarily going to look at a 100 ranked nationally guy and a guy who is currently the 57th, which is what Sam Williams-Dixon is currently ranked. He's underrated just for the sake of he's underrated. He's a late rising Ohio kid, camp rules, OHAS, whatever sucks. You've heard me say all these things 1,000 times before.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Williams-Dixon, way better than the 57th best running back in the country. Just going to throw that out there. So, but I just don't think if you're 2025's version of Trey Henderson, I don't think, look at the wide receivers. Top talent is not afraid to compete. If you can't pass on 2024 kids in order to focus on 2025 kids, because you just never know if those 2025 kids are going to come. You have to acquire the most talent you can get. And if kids transfer, if kids are afraid of competition, then that's just a reality that you deal with. And then you go out to the next class and you get the best guys you can get.
Yep.
And
yep.
You can never be worried about having too much talent. So if you need 2 running backs, you go get 2 running backs. And if some running back in 2025 doesn't like it, then you probably don't want them anyway. Now, if not Sam Williams-Dixon, there is another name out there to keep an eye on. Would be Miles Lockhart. He's from Chandler, Arizona. I think that's another name to keep an eye on. My thought process right now is more that Miles Lockhart was, does he play with Raiola? I don't think so. Kyle, can you look that up?
No, they don't.
Yeah. Chant, I think you're
Raiola
thinking
is over at Pinnacle High School.
And where is that?
It's in Phoenix.
Gotcha. Chandler, Arizona is, I cannot think of the quarterback's name. He was the quarterback who Ohio State recruited in the same recruiting class as CJ Stroud. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was from Chandler, Arizona. Jack Miller, thank you. So I think maybe that's maybe where you're drawing maybe where those lines got crossed. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think Kyle, I think that's it for the recruiting portion of today's show. Gave you some names to look out on. Some of the names are names we've talked about already. I think I gave you maybe 1 or 2 new names. And just trying to predict who's in this big run. I know Raiola is in Arizona. That's why I asked. Yeah. And I think, and I could be wrong, and Kyle, don't look this up because I don't care. I believe Chandler, Arizona is in the Phoenix area. So it's a hotbed of talent.
I think so.
Yeah, it's in greater Phoenix metro, whatever, I believe. So it's an easy mistake to make.
And you're right.
I kind of just assumed that everything in Arizona is near Phoenix. Unless it's
either near either near Phoenix. Yeah. It's either near Phoenix or maybe close to Las Vegas there.
Yeah. It's near the habitable parts, or the parts that they have enough money to pretend it's habitable, to make it habitable through force, which is, I think, largely what Phoenix is. All right, Kyle, I think that's it for the recruiting portions. Let's talk about some stuff we saw this week in training camp. Some scrimmage updates, I think. Ohio State had another set of scrimmages on Saturday, Student Appreciation Day, all of that. Big piece of news, or I don't even know if it's quote unquote news, but one of the chief observations coming out of those scrimmages is how insanely dominant the defensive line is. Which, when you're playing your own guys versus your own guys, is both good news and bad, of course. I think last week we were taking some words that Ryan Day said, hey, man, we're liking the offensive line. And then, of course, then you get scrimmage updates where it's like, man, the defensive line completely dominated the entire time. Is the offensive line really bad, or is the defensive line that good? And here's the thing. The defensive line is that good. The defensive line is actually that good.
And you have to think too, how much Ohio State lost on the offensive line too. And we talked about that, I think, in last week's episode. Like they got some shoes to fill in.
Yeah, I am still very scared about the offensive tackle position. It should be noted Zen Mikowski did not participate in this scrimmage. So Ohio State was having to pull their third tackle over at right tackle. Mikowski has himself struggled in previous scrimmages, but you're going up against some of the best defensive ends in the country. So you'd like to think that he's facing better competition in practice than he will be basically during the entire Big Ten schedule, at least. Are we surprised Donovan Jackson didn't bump over? I think Ohio State is feeling pretty good about the left tackle position. I think it's right tackle, because if Donovan Jackson would have bumped over, it would have been the left tackle. I don't know if you would move him out to right tackle, personally. And by the way, Donovan Jackson, I believe, also did not participate, or at least did not fully participate in the scrimmage. So that also leads to the defensive line utterly dominating.
Yeah.
Feels like they'll portal someone in for offensive tackle.
I don't know. Maybe.
Kyle, they tried. They tried during the first run. It's not like they didn't try.
Yeah.
they weren't going to take a body to take a body. They were going to take someone who was going to start. Like they almost have to. Maybe. I don't know. If you get a report out of camp that says Michalski is struggling to block Jack Sawyer, well, yeah, most guys are going to struggle to block Jack Sawyer. What's up with the Louisiana Tech transfer? Was he the center? Is that correct? He's pushing for a job. Something like that. He played everywhere. Okay. Well, someone who plays everywhere doesn't play offensive tackle. Not at Ohio State. You're a tackle or you're not a tackle. You're a tackle who can move inside, but you don't take a guard and move them outside. Donovan Jackson was recruited as a guard tackle. So you could, in theory, see him move outside. Paris Johnson Jr. played his first year at Ohio State as a guard, but he was always a tackle. Everyone knew that. Louisiana Tech transfer. We talked about him, I believe, last week when we were talking about, players leaving and who's replacing them. We talked about him being involved with the battle for the center position. It's not a battle I anticipate he'll win, but he's pushing to start, which is exactly why you bring a guy like that in. But as far as I know, I don't anticipate him playing at the tackle position. I would not anticipate that happening. If any, again, I really expect them. Though they have to go get someone, even if it's for depth. But preferably, they need to go get someone to start at right tackle out of the portal. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe asking Zen Michalski to block Jack Sawyer and do so well and consistently is asking a lot of him. Especially for a guy who's just starting. Maybe he'll get better. Maybe he's working real hard, or maybe he's just not going to be that guy. I don't know. I'm not there every day at practice. I'm not going to tell you I have the answer when I don't have the answer. But I think it's pretty apparent if we're looking at facts on the table. They went real hard after a couple offensive tackles in the transfer portal before spring camp. I would assume that they're going to go after an offensive tackle real hard when the portal opens back up post spring camp. Watch what happens. Just sit back and watch. And look at who they're targeting. If they're spending resources trying to get, whoever the top 1, 2, 3 tackles are in the transfer portal post spring camp, then you know how they'll feel about their offensive tackles currently. If they go out and they're trying to get an older guy who just is looking for a spot to compete, or maybe is looking for a spot in a graduate program, you know what I mean? It's like, to make it a quarterback equivalent, are you going and getting Jagger LaRue to play offensive tackle, or are you going to go get Justin Fields to play offensive tackle? Just watch to see what Ohio State does when the portal opens back up, and that'll let you know how they feel about their offensive tackles. Are they going to get, Justin Fields or Jagger LaRue out of the portal? You need insider credentials. I am not qualified to have credentials. It's basically a miracle that I can reach out and talk to people who do.
All right. Anything else from the scrimmage here, Jared?
There was an injury. Jihad Carter apparently had a knee injury that they're evaluating. It's worth noting again that the defensive line dominated. JT, Curry, Hamilton, Mike Hall, Tyleek Williams, they all had amazing days. It wasn't like it was one or two guys dominating out on the defensive line. It appeared to be the entire crew showed up. To the point where dominated to the point that if you're going to that scrimmage looking for like an evaluation on the quarterbacks, you just didn't get one because they were basically running for their lives the entire time. I guess they did get some good looks like during the 7-on-7s. And what I'm hearing is good, which is that they both look really good. They both get to throw to elite wide receivers. There's enough elite wide receivers to go around so that they both get their own share of elite wide receivers, which helps. But yeah, it's just I'm once again Ryan Day said some really nice things about the offensive line last week, which had me feeling good. And I'll be honest, I'm sort of gone back to being concerned about Ohio State's ability to pass block. So we'll see how it goes. By the way, Gangland said something about, I said Donovan Jackson did not participate or had light participation. And Gangland said that he did. He was limited. He wasn't, Mikowski did not participate. Donovan Jackson was limited. I think you also need to consider that an open scrimmage is going to be extremely vanilla. Yeah, for sure. So you take that into the evaluation with the quarterbacks because the defense is going to be insanely vanilla for sure. Gives a huge advantage to the wide receivers and the quarterbacks in that situation. But as far as the blocking goes, pass blocking goes, it being vanilla just means that the defense is winning one-on-ones. That's what that means. Who knows? We don't really give much injury info. No, we do not. Very light. And actually, it's so secretive that I wonder if it's sustainable. Because I think we've seen multiple instances where a player's been hurt for a lot of the year. Ohio State doesn't ever acknowledge that the player's hurt, and therefore the player starts underperforming, and everyone starts going, what the fuck is up with... this year it was Trey Henderson. It was Sean Wade had his turn being that guy, where everyone's just like, what's up with so-and-so? He sucks now. Well, it's because he's hurt. But because Ohio State isn't advertising that he's hurt, it ends up kind of Denzel Burke, Matt Jones, Mike Hall. Yeah. So I wonder if Ohio State's secretiveness around injuries is causing turmoil in the locker room because these players are taking a lot of shit publicly when they probably shouldn't be. But also, if you're a fan, you're the problem. If you're a fan who's just like harassing these poor dudes on Twitter because they're not performing up to your expectations, then you are the actual problem there. Do you think players aren't being honest about it either? Well, the players are doing what they're told. If Ryan Day says, hey, keep your injury secret, then they're keeping their injury secret. We've seen several players come out after the season and been like, man, I've been dealing with turf toe all year. And y'all have been dicks to me. I'm paraphrasing Trey Henderson right now. Trey Henderson took so much shit that he almost transferred. I want everyone to hear me say that. Buckeye Nation almost ran Trey Henderson out of Columbus. Or just not telling the staff. You can only get away with that for so long. I mean, if it's really impacting you, you can only get away with that for so long, especially, if it's a lower body injury. Our fan base, well, it's every major college football fan base. It's not, I don't know if Ohio State's any better, any worse than comparable size fan bases, but all the giant college football fan bases have their assholes. You'd like to think that Ohio State's better because we're Ohio State people. We'd like to think that but we're not. We have the same level of if you have a fan base that's made up of millions of people, if 0.01% of them are assholes, the more people who are fans, the bigger number that because it is just like 1% are just toxic assholes. But if you have 1,000 fans, 1% is 10 people. 0.1% would be one person. But if you have 10 million fans, well, now you have an entire pack of raving assholes. It's just math. Let's have a fan draft and send them all to Teton. Yeah, that would be nice. We have an S tier level of absolute lunatic fans. I agree, but I think the bigger the fan base, the more the crazies come out.
Yep, exactly. All right. Anything else from the scrimmage here, Jared?
No, I think we're good. I want to ask everyone to hop over to our YouTube channel or the Buckeye Huddle YouTube channel, wherever you're watching this. If you're just listening, hop over to either one. I don't care which. Hop over to either one, and in the comment section, please let us know who you think Ohio State's next commitment will be from. We know Aaron Nolan's committing on the 8th. We don't know where, but we feel good. Miles Graham's out there. Peyton Pierce is out there. Dylan Stewart's out there. There's some Sam Williams-Dixon's out there. Go into the comment section. Let us know. And no, Gangland, pick one name. Picking a bunch of names is what I get to do as the host. That's my privilege. One name in the notes. And by the way, if you go outside of any of the names we talked about in this episode and you're right, you get bonus points. How do you turn in those bonus points? You don't. They're fictional. Sorry. All right, Kyle, that's it. That's head over to the sloopcast.com where you'll find links to all of our other things. Kyle, do you have anything in Kyle's Corner?
How about one of our favorite subjects, Black Stripes? We have the quarterback graduate transfer from Oregon State, Tristan Jabia. Yeah, I think that's Jabia. Got his black stripe removed.
There you go.
Over this weekend here.
Yeah, it's speaking of Jagger LaRue.
Yep, Jabia. Yes.
Jeb.
All right, that's it. That's honestly all I have here for
Jeb
for this. What?
Jeb.
Jabia.
Okay. The Sloopcast. We always have to fumble it at the end with a name pronunciation. Although maybe Kyle was right. I have no clue. Kyle may have nailed that. I have no idea. So Kyle, with all that
Probably
means,
not.
Who knows? I don't. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage. Oh, I didn't announce music, Kyle.
You didn't. No.
I was like, I thought that I was going to introduce the band, but then I realized I didn't introduce the band. I have to introduce the band before I introduce the band, because that's how this works, I guess.
That's how it works. Yes.
First you introduce the band and then you introduce the band. This is obviously how it goes. Vote Kyle for Dictator of America in 2024. No. I'll let him have 4 years, though. I'd let Kyle have 4 years. And I say that because I'd be shadow governing from behind. All right. Tonight's end music brought to you by a Columbus-based band called Brat, Curse, Manchurian Jared Anon. I'll take either of those. Tonight's ending music is brought to you by a Columbus-based band called Brat Curse. You can listen to Brat Curse on Bandcamp or on YouTube or on Apple Music or any number of places. But if you're listening to the audio version of this show, you can just sit here and do nothing, and they will start playing here soon. And if you are watching the YouTube version of this, we can't play music on YouTube, but there is a link down in the show notes. You can click on that link and listen along for yourself. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Brat Curse.